there yarn lovers, it's Gary and I'm coming to you from my happy place, the Yarn Corner here on Vancouver Island in Canada. So welcome. Today is Sunday, March the 7th, 2022 and this is video number 142. How are you all doing? I hope well. It's been a hot minute, couple of weeks, I haven't been around, so I do apologize for that, but there's good reason. We've been super busy here in this new to us community me and my husband have moved into, and I'll put all of that towards the end of the video. So if you're inclined to stick around to learn more about what's been going on here, then please do. For all of the other yarny goodness, I'll put it up front. There is a catch up on all of the Hobbii review yarn that I got in February from Hobbii, free of charge. Thank you, Hobbii, for sending it. And I had so much fun. I finished 4 items and now I have a greater sense on like the yarn and what kind of hook size or needle tips that I wanted to use with them. So I hope that when we talk about the works that these tips and tricks will be able to be transferred to you as well, so that you'll have a greater sense of perhaps maybe the yarn and what you want to do with your projects. These are all just personal opinions as well, so please keep that in mind, that we all have different opinions. So this is just my humble opinion of the yarn. I also want to thank everyone for supporting the video that I put out in February. I'll link that down below, which talks about the Hobbii review, and supporting me in a way that it made me feel so like appreciated and grateful that I have such yarny support in the community. So thank you so much for leaving those positive comments. And I've seen some new faces around, so I want to welcome those people who have just joined, and I want to thank a particular person for that as well, and that's Crystal from Bag O' Day. Hi Crystal. She mentioned me in her live when I was in the chat with all of the other people, and said some really amazing kind words and left me speechless. I adore Crystal. Thank you, Crystal, so much for that. And yeah, if you don't know who Crystal is, I want to just say I'm going to leave her channel link down below. I don't know if there is anyone out there who does not know of her, but if you don't, you need to go over and visit her. She was the reason why I started crocheting. She gave me the encouragement. She gave me the technical skill and the tutorials to learn basic stitches all the way to the more complex, and I'm still learning from her. So if you're looking to get more grasp on your crochet skills, or if you want to learn about yarny technical terms, or if you are interested in learning about a new yarn that's out there on the market, then Crystal is a really good source for that information. So I'll link her YouTube channel down below, and if you want to go across and say hi, you can tell her that Gary sent you. So let's start with the review finished items, and I have a few of them, so bear with me, and I'm really excited to show you these. First up, the item that I've got to showcase is the review yarn from Hobbii called Metallico. And this is the finished item that I had crocheted up using the pattern called Dream and Shine by Morbin. Now Morbin have wonderful crocheted free patterns, but they also have patterns that you can purchase. And this one is one of their free ones that I found on Hobbii's website. I'll link all the patterns that I mentioned down below in the description box. You can also find this on Ravelry as well. And what I had learned using up the Metallico and that special pattern was how to do the X stitch, which is this row here of X's, an amazing stitch, and everything else was pretty much a simple double crochet, and occasionally I believe there was single crochet as well to finish off the edging. So the skill level on this design is kind of intermediate, beginner intermediate, and I do love that there is jagged tooth on one of the edges. So really works well layering when you're wrapping this around so that you can have the teeth creating some of the interest and texture when you're wearing it. The amount of yarn needed for this was 350 grams. So each of the balls is 50 grams. So I used 7 balls in entirety to finish the pattern, and I had one left over. So I think I'll leave that in my collection for perhaps knitting and finding out what I can do with knit with this yarn. What I found out as well using my 5mm crochet hook with this project was it's nice to have a larger size hook for this yarn and simple stitches. I did try out more complex and smaller hook, complex stitches, and I found it very difficult to frog back because it does have a halo on it. So when I rated it, 5 being the best and friendly to frog yarn, I gave it a 3 for frogging. So yeah, I absolutely love this. What do you think? Very, very drapey. It's very hard for me to put this all into the camera frame, but it is around 2 meters in length for the long side, and then the short side from across here is around 12 inches or 30 centimeters. Now I have some photographs that I want to share with you on showing it off a little bit more in the photographs and showing how wonderful it is in length, and I'll come back, wear it for a little bit so you can see how I like wearing it. Okay, so I just wrapped it around really quickly, and I do like the jagged effect of that, the tooth edge showing up in layers. Now, this is a scarf that you would wear when the weather is cooler, so in winter or colder evenings in the spring or the fall. I would say that it's a little warm right now because it is a sunny day out there and the house is quite warm as well. But this is how I would wear it. I would wear it either without a jacket as is, or I would have it over a jacket and get that extra toasty feel. But really love the squishiness of it, and yeah, I enjoyed working with the yarn. Next up is a finished knitted cowl that I was testing out 2 different Hobbii collections worked up together in this slip stitch pattern. It is a free pattern and it's called Array by Shibui Knits, and I absolutely love how the texture of this came out, the soft quality to it. It's very, very stretchy and bouncy, an absolute joy to work up and wear as well. It's very soft and you can wear this against your skin with no undergarments required. So the 2 yarns that I used were the Butterfly collection, which is the 3-weight or a DK in this color called Cloudless Sulfur, and I paired it with a sport weight or fingering weight yarn from the Dolce Cashmere collection in the colorway Pebble. That's a mouthful. So I absolutely enjoyed working to the pattern. I did change it up a little bit. I didn't cast on as many stitches as was requested by the pattern. So I believe it is a little longer and you can twist it and wear it twice around your neck. But I did use a knitting needle that had sharp pointed needles, tips to them, and I found it very difficult to not split the yarn. So I went down to my Chargu needle tips, which are pointy enough, but they don't pierce the thread or the yarn, and I eliminated the issue of splitting the yarn with my needles. And I used a 4mm needle tips on a 22 cable, and it was enough for me to cast on the stitches. I did reduce it by 100 stitches, so it gave me, what do you think this is? Maybe around, I'm going to say 15 inches of when it's laying down flat like this. And that is where you can see the seam of my rounds, beginning and end of the round. And you can see it more on the inside. So I'll just show you the inside on how the stitches look as well. Equally as lovely. There it is there. And let's try that on so you can see how it's worn and how it drapes. Absolutely love this. It's really, really nice. So just keep in mind when you're buying yarn like this, it frogs super, super easily. And the tips of the needles, if you use something a little duller, not so sharp, then you'll avoid having to split the yarn, or it won't slow down your process, that the yarn will stay intact if it's a slightly duller tip. Next up is a crocheted scarf that I was playing around with some stitch work. No pattern, it was just me looking at chevron and doing filet work to mimic the chevron shape. I did get inspiration from a triangle scarf that used something similar to this type of chevron filet technique, and I thought I'd like to try it out on my own and do it in a scarf. So here it is here. I'm testing out the Winter Glow, which is a wonderful collection by Hobbii and has short spurts of color that wash into each other like a watercolor effect. And here is the filet chevron. So one of the angled or on the bias is in like filet, and then this one here is solid. So you get the effect of a mock chevron happening just with the holes and with the solids happening on an angle. Really enjoyed it. I finished the scarf off with a couple of rounds of single crochet through the back loop to get a nice mock style knitted I-cord bind off, and it creates a nice lovely weighted border as well. So if you're wearing this, the edges will tend to kind of like want to drape away or down, so it doesn't sort of like fold in on itself or get caught up. So it is a bit more weighty on the edges, which I really like. The numbers of the colorways, they do have an unusual convention of calling these colors by what you see inside of the color. And I'm going to read my notes, which are down here, so excuse me as I look down. But I have the... Okay, number 4 is the main one here, and I used the whole entire cake, which was 700 meters, and it is classified as a 4-weight, but I would treat it more as a 3-weight or DK yarn. There, it does rove, so it does go from down to a sport weight 2 all the way up. In some parts, very, very small parts, I would classify more of a 4, but overall DK. The color of the number 4 is peppermint, pink, orange, blue. And what I had done was, I knew I wasn't going to have enough for the one ball to get the length that I wanted, because I wanted to wrap it around a few times. So I cuffed it in a different colorway here, slightly darker, number 17, called Curry Steel Lilac Mustard. Yeah, so I have some photographs of this where you can see it in better light because I'm losing my light right now. And yeah, I'll come back and I'll show you how I wear it. I like wearing it like this, just wrapped around loosely and letting the colors be displayed. I would say that this yarn is also for colder climates. It is quite warm right now in the room, and I could wear a jacket either on top or this on top of the jacket, layering effect, showing off the colors, which is the real kind of like, you know, piece of work here for this yarn, is that the colors are beautiful. Now, I used a 5mm crochet hook by Susan Bates. It's like a full metal hook, and I found that that was a great pairing for a simple stitch like a double crochet or single crochet, and it frogged very well when I needed to unravel and go back to correct a mistake. But like the Metallico, the Winter Glow would be a difficult yarn to frog back. You'd have some problems if the stitches are too condensed using a smaller hook, or if you have a complicated stitch which repeats back in on itself like a bubble stitch, or if you're doing some sort of like really tight condensed fanning stitches, you might find that this will have trouble to frog back. So I gave it a frogging friendly 2 out of 5. So it was lower rating because of the fact that you need to pair off the yarn with a really nice hook and keeping it very simple. So I hope that helps a little bit when you're making your choices and giving you some ideas of what you could use the yarn for. This yarn, because it's so colorful and it bleeds in on itself, simple stitches like the linen stitch or the rice stitch would be beautiful, as well as if you wanted to knit up honeycomb and using this as the backwash and having a solid to frame that backwash color would be a beautiful technique as well to use the yarn. So what have I got up next is another finished item. Now, this one was me just playing around. I also wanted to try out the tighter stitches with this one just to get an idea of how it worked up in a different type of stitch. I crocheted a small cowl in this chevron piece here. I used a 3mm crochet hook, and this is where I discovered that it was quite difficult to frog back the Winter Glow. I paired it with the Dolce cashmere, which was done in the wonderful slip stitch cowl that I knitted up, and you can see how that works in using it in crochet. Really lovely and soft that Dolce cashmere was. So I did this little number here, trying out the 2 yarns together. So I will take this one off because it is getting quite warm and try on this one. So in this one, there was no pattern. It was just me doing through the back loop on the bias and then joining these strips of the different angles together. So it created a chevron. I would say that if I was to do this pattern again, I would do the strips and then join with a continuous join stitch all the way around. So I have the strips separately rather than joining them as I went. Only because the joins do look a little bit mangulated. They kind of look a little messy. So yeah, I really like that too. It's light. It just has a bit of pop of color for your whatever you're wearing, like how your outfit's looking. It adds a little bit of interest and texture. So that concludes my review on the Hobbii yarns, showcasing it through different projects that I completed in February to now. I had so much fun doing it. They're also my own opinions. I just want to point that out, that you may have had different experiences using the yarn, maybe different patterns or using your different crafting tools. So these are just my opinions. I'd love to hear how you felt the yarn worked up for you on projects that you had, and you can leave them down below in the description box below. So thank you, Hobbii, for supplying the yarn. If you want me to do any more future reviews, please hook me up with yarn and I would be thrilled to do them. If you're also interested in me trying out a different yarn as well, you can email me. The email address is down below. I'd love to communicate and try out the yarn as well and give you my honest opinion on them. So now I'm going to switch up and change gears. I'm going to be talking about a finished work that I did for a make-along. Now this make-along is a year-long make-along, and each month there is a different photograph inspiration. It is Setta's 2022 calendar cowl, and I have since found out that you can also do different things, like you can crochet or knit items to celebrate the artists that are in each of the months. So Setta was the celebrated artist for January. Now February was Reggie over at J Hook Crochet. Hi Reggie. So she had this amazing photograph that she was standing in front of this wonderful ornate fountain that was covered in snow, and Reggie had her wonderful beanie on with a lovely cow. So I took those color inspirations from the photographs and I made this. It is a crocheted pillowcase, and when I saw the photograph, I went into my stash and I was looking deep into tubs to look for some grays and something that inspired me on a winter wonderland setting. And I came up with this faux fur and these colors. So we have an icy gray, like an almost Arctic light gray, and I have had this fun fur in a grey, and then this powdery blue, and then Reggie had this purple. She also had a maroon or burgundy color in her cowl, but I decided not to go with that because I couldn't really find anything, so I went with these colors here. So it is the circle to square crochet technique using the circles until it gets to a point, and then you square off the edges. There's my horrible seam there where the start and the end join together. So I put some buttons in on it here, and I can undo the buttons and take the pillow out if I want to wash the pillowcase. I used a couple of different sizes of hooks for the two types of yarn that were in here. So the 4 worsted weight, I used a 4mm crochet hook in the Susan Bates collection. And for the fun fur, I used a 6mm crochet hook. So I pretty much did this as the foundation on both sides, so the front and the back, but I squeezed in a slip stitch of faux fur throughout the front panel to give it the rings of the faux fur. And what do you think? It's very plush, very, very textural. I do like the colors. They resemble the fountain to me in this circular formation. And then this was the color for the hat that Reggie was wearing. Really, really nice. And what did I use? Let's talk about the yarn. For the purple, it was Bernays Super Value in the colorway Mulberry. Really, really nice color there. And for the gray, I used 2 balls of Shashon. I don't know who sells this, but the ball band doesn't really give you much information about what Shashon is or the particular yarn, especially the color. There's no color number or name, but it was in the light icy gray color. And I used both balls. So they're 4 worsted weights. For the fluffy joy and fun was the Knit Picks Fable Fur, and that's the ashy gray color. This was called Kuma, and it is super bulky, or number 6. And this color here, which is Ursa, URSA, and that's the icy blue or powder blue kind of faux fur. Yeah. So the last thing that I'm going to catch you up on, because I don't have any works in progress, but I do have an alteration that I want to talk to you about. Now, you may have remembered or recalled this lovely sweater. It is a scrappy sweater that I did for my niece. Now, she's grown and out of this, but she has a younger sister that's 2 years younger, and now she's ready to wear this. So it's come back for some alterations because the neck has shrunk a little bit. So I did an I-cord bind off for the neck, so it is quite a tight and very not stretchy type of bind off. And I thought about steeking it and adding a button, but I'm just going to unravel that bind off and then just re-knit that small section there to eliminate the bind off, but also create more of a stretch to it so that it can fit over niece 2's head. So yeah, that'll be put to good use for another season or two. And I think that the sweater has held up very, very well. It's been washed several times and it's looking really good. It's not even peeling that much. So I'm super impressed with that. Yeah, sticking scares me a bit. I've never tried it before, so I don't know how to sew. So I know that there is a lot of sewing involved to secure ends before cutting the rows of knitting. So yeah, I think I'm going to re-knit just the bind off. It seems easier to me. If you have any suggestions on perhaps making the alteration to make the neck a little bit bigger, please add them down below. I'd love to read how you would approach doing the alteration. So I believe that those are all of the yarny goodies that I've got to show and share with you. I do have some other small progress on a work that's up here. I did knit a couple of hats that I gifted out, so I don't have them to show, but I think that's plenty to indulge on for the last 2 weeks. Now I'm going to move into what me and my hubby have been up to in our new neighborhood that we've moved into, and talk about one thing that's happened that's going to be a big change for 2022. You may recall that I was talking about this in a couple of podcasts, alluding to phone calls, alluding to meetings. So I am taking a new job starting tomorrow, and it has been a process of interviews and then doing some paperwork, and now we're starting tomorrow. So I'm going to have little time in the crafting room, because on the other side of the room is where I normally do my own business. I am a graphic designer, so I have several clients of my own, and it's quite often that I can get away and do some filming and move away from the office part of the room and come over here and do some filming. But now that I'm a 9-to-5er in an office, I'm going to be having to do my filming in the evening and keeping you up to date on what's going on here with my crafting. So the lighting might be quite dark or different, and I won't have the same type of natural light because I'll be in the office working during the day. But I'm excited about the new change. I'm going to see how it works in. I've been busy wrapping up 2 contracts to make it happen. They're a spillover, and I will be doing some of my own client work during the evening as well. So it's going to be a busy year for me. So yeah, you might not see me here as often, but I do want to check in because knitting and crocheting is part of who I am. And I always spend at least 2-3 hours a day to do it. So I'll have some finished works to show you, and I love the feedback as well on all the wisdom that I've gained from this yarny community. So there's no way that I'm going to stop altogether, but I might be here less frequently. Yeah, so, I also have to talk about last Saturday. I was in a knit night, and it was hosted by Needles at the Ready, who is a YouTube channel here. Kevin and Ray are the hosts. Hi, Kevin and Ray. And I had a lot of fun being included in a group of, I think there were around about 20 people who are Skyping in or Zooming in from their various parts around, mostly the United States, but some of them were up in Canada, and we enjoyed a few hours of fun talking about yarn, talking about what's going on in people's lives. So yeah, I want to thank Kevin and Ray for that outlet and that connection there with the Knit Night people that joined in. The other thing that I want to mention as well is that we did a couple of more hikes, and I'm glad that if you're here, you get to see all of the wonderful footage that I took. One was in the Rosewall National Park, which took us along a creek or riverbed, and then we finally got to wonderful waterfalls at the end. It took about an hour to walk into there and then an hour to walk back. So round trip, 2 hours. We were almost ready to turn around when we saw 2 other hikers at the end of the trail, and they told us if we weren't faint of heart that we could clamber up a rock and see another waterfall which was 3 or 4 times more spectacular than the one that we could see. So we took our chances and we clambered up this rock face and got over the other side, and sure enough there was a breathtaking view of a waterfall that was 3 times bigger than what we had found lower downstream. So I'll include those in the mix of the footage that I have, but also I have footage of Elk Falls, which is a provincial park that I've already showcased in a previous video, but the park was inundated with snow. We just had a good dump of snow on everything, and it was beautifully misty and mysterious. But this time when we went back to Elk Falls, everything melted down. It was like a wonderful green, lush landscape. So I have footage of that as well. Now you might remember this particular one being the suspension bridge where I walked across and I took you across to the other side. Well, this is the same location, Elk Falls, and just in a different part of the year, different time of the year. So I'm finding out that we're revisiting same places, but it's just looking completely different depending on the season, the time of day. There's different lighting, different, I guess, fragrances in the air, which you can't smell, but like you can see different colors of the foliage that is being presented to us whilst we go into spring. And I'm absolutely loving rediscovering all these new things. So I hope that you'll enjoy the next little while. And here is the footage of our walks. You may have recognized in the clip that my husband Chad was walking with a friend, and this friend had come over from Vancouver. We've had a couple of house guests stay overnight, and that's been quite a wonderful experience, but has kept me away from doing filming as well. So a couple of weekends, we've had guests come down from Vancouver, and it's been wonderful to show them around. And one of them was the gentleman that you saw in the clip with my husband, and we were celebrating a special date for him, and it was a great time. We also explored the eateries around here. There was a pub that we saw a live band, and it was a great evening. And there was also a friend of Chad's who he used to work with stayed with us for an evening, and me and this friend had a great day of knitting. She had prepared her bags with lots of different yarn that she had purchased recently, and she wanted me to teach her how to knit. Now, I'm by no stretch a great teacher, but we had so much fun sitting on our couch down in the living room and talking about how to cast on. She showed me what she knew about knitting already, and then we just advanced on some of the other stitch work that is kind of the make or break of knitting, is like knitting and purling. So I taught her how to purl. And it was wonderful. We were like two little chipmunks sitting on the couch, just sort of chit-chatting away. And I think if I can find a clip of it, I'll put it towards the end so that you can see what we got up to. Yeah, we've had a couple of dinner dates, lunch dates with family who have come over to visit and also look at the property. So that was a lot of fun. And we tried another Just Like Mum's pie. I don't know whether you recall me talking about pie from this little shed, but this time it was a pie that was purchased by our dinner guests or lunch guests. They came for lunch and they had purchased the coconut cream pie, and it was delicious. It's all gone. I'll stick a photograph as well somewhere up here of the coconut cream pie, what was left, only for a brief period of time, and then it all pretty much got polished off. So thanks for bringing that over. Delicious. And I think that catches you up on everything. I hope you're all doing well and staying safe, enjoying your weekend. I will be starting my new job tomorrow, so I will be having lots to talk about next time we catch up. And I will be showing you more work later down the way. So enjoy your weekend and what's left of it, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Well, Gary, you are teaching me a valuable skill that I can pass on to my students. Knitting, a lifelong, craft. I feel smarter already.